Hey world builders, welcome back to Build Together. This is day 150. Today's prompt comes from Laredia in the Discord, and it is, what relationship do gods or deities have with the mortals that worship them? So I'll be honest, I went a little far afield of this one, and I might just have to read it to you. I tried my hand at writing more in-world philosophy, and so I wrote a document called The Concept of Deity, which I'll read to you now. The concept of deity via Nisrin. What exactly is the relationship between ourselves, sentient mortals of the material world, and those we name gods, sentient immortals of the extra-material world? It may lie within that first descriptive word known as sentience. I believe it was the first head priest who claimed that sentience itself was a gift only a god, Hormuz, could provide. Originally, in my thinking, I was inclined to believe that a deity figure capable of granting sentience must have something more than sentience at its disposal to have created something capable of, as we perceive it, free will of thought and action. However, after my meeting with two different awakened and one of their masters, I was gently corrected from this line of thinking. Our ability to pass on sentience might still be in a whole different from the idea of created sentience, but such a thought should be argued in its own right, not clumsily pressed on about here. Though deniers of the term God in its entirety exist within our midst, I do not intend to argue against their premises, since they are bound up in a subset of ideals I do not currently wish to unearth. For our purposes, the following can be assumed. The gods are real beings which exist wholly separate from our own existence, that is to say, they are completely different creatures, so much so that perhaps the word creature, or even exist, do not apply well. However we define them, we may agree that the continued observable presence of entities outside the material world that are higher beings than us is factual. Higher beings, an implication believed by many to imply a requirement for worship. Head Emily wrote in Why Do We Worship? That you were created by it. Must it beg for your attention? That you and it exist, you second, it first, might enlighten you towards proper worship of it. Of course, this feels like a very natural conclusion to arrive at, but I've always believed sundered priests should abstain from philosophical pursuits, considering their immense bias evident by their missing flesh. What does higher mean in these contexts? To Emily, it appears to mean better, deserving of worship by the fact of its existence. This conclusion is simplistic, and I mean no disservice to Emily, and were he still here, I would ask him eagerly to divulge a more full-bodied definition. Instead, I proffer my own definition, closer to the truth, capable of observing both worlds, imbued with power. I hope that you would agree with me that this definition of a higher being does not incorporate the idea of deity, something requiring worship. If this definition is accurate, there are material world versions of such a being. Take, for example, the Vizier of the Orensire Empire. He is by his position imbued with power. Someone might argue against the idea of imbuement versus adornment, but if some stories are to be believed, such an idea is not foreign to deities such as Eorsleb. As for seeing the truth and observing the extra